Hey guys, welcome to the tutorial. Like most tutorials, I start off with combing the hair through. I've already done that in this tutorial. In this tutorial, I'm going to start out with the shape up. I'm doing a skin tight high bald fade, and normally I like to shape the front up. With him, I like to do it first because he doesn't really want it very sharp. He just wants it kind of clean, so you're going to just see me clean it up and touch his hairline just a little bit, and then we're going to go right into the bald fade. Normally, what I like to do is take the top down and then shape across the front, but because he's not getting his top taken down, I'm just going to start right out with shaping it across the front. As you see, I'm just touching his line very little, barely touching it at all, just cleaning it up. Because he doesn't really want a defined sharp line. So I'm just going to clean it up and touch it just a little bit. In this next step, I'm going to take my Oster Model 10s and my triple O guard and create my first line. I don't really focus on the bottom part. I just create the first line so that I can begin the fading process. So I'm going to take my triple O guard with my Oster Model 10s. If you don't have a pair of Model 10s, you can use your Andis Masters all the way closed. You can use your Oster Fastfeeds all the way closed, or your Wahl Seniors all the way closed to create this first line. Now that I've created my first line, I'm going to begin my second line. I'm going to take my Oster Model 10s, take my number 1 guard, and go up roughly 2 inches, an inch to 2 inches, and create my second line. So I'm taking my number 1 guard and going up, create my second line. If you do not have the Model 10s, you can take your Masters all the way open, your Fast Feeds all the way open, or your Seniors all the way open to create your first or your second line to create this 1 guard line. In this next step, I'm going to take my Oster Model 10s again, take my 1.5 blade, and begin to create my third line going up 1 inch from my second line. So I'm taking my 1.5 to create my third line going up 1 inch from my second line. If you do not have the 1.5, you can put your number 1 guard on there and open your clippers up halfway, whatever clippers you're using, and that should give you the 1.5. I'm now going to take my 3.5 blade and kind of go into the top. This is the trick. This is something that I've been doing for a long time. That's normally my process: a 1, 1.5, 3.5, and I normally use the same process over and over again. But now I'm going into the top just a little bit, not a lot. I'm not digging into the top. I'm just kind of smoothing out the top part of the sides. Right above my 1.5, so that when I fade, it'll be nice and smooth and I won't have to do a lot of work. So now I'm taking my 3.5 and I'm kind of going over my 1.5 just a little bit, going up into the top just a little bit. You can see that I'm not really digging, I'm just kind of smoothing it out. Okay, now it's time for me to start my fade. I'm taking my Wahl Seniors with the blade all the way open and my number 2 guard. If you're using the Speedo guides like I am, it'll be your 0 guard Speedo guide with the blade all the way open. And I'm kind of just taking my 1.5 line and I'm beginning to blend out that line from the top. So I'm working on the top line that I created with my 1.5, between my 1.5 and that 3.5. And I'm working on blending that line out right now with my Wahl Seniors with the blade all the way open. If you can see, I just closed my Wahl Seniors all the way up, and I'm still working on that same line. I smoothed it out with my blade open, and now my blade is closed and I'm working on that line a little bit more. The trick to working on this line at this point is listening to how much hair comes off. You don't want to hear a lot of hair coming off. You want to hear just a little bit of hair. So you want to pay attention to how much hair is coming off. You want to listen to your clippers because they're going to tell you a lot about how you're doing in this fade process. So right now I'm smoothing out that line a little bit more, just taking off a little bit more hair. I don't want to hear a lot of hair coming off. I just want to hear just a little bit of hair coming off in this process. Okay, in this step I'm taking my Wahl Seniors with my blade open, all the way open, which would give me roughly a 1.5, and I'm going to begin just blending that line completely into the top where my 1.5 and my 3.5 met. Now I'm taking out that line in particular with my Wahl Seniors with the blade all the way open. I'm using my number 1 guard. If you're using the Speedo guides like I am, it is your 00 guard with the blade all the way open. And like I said, I'm just working on that 1.5 line right now. Okay guys, what I've just done is now I've closed my Wahl Seniors with the blade all the way closed, and I'm working on that line where my 1 and my 1.5 met. Now I'm beginning to blend out that line right now. I'm lightly touching that line. I'm not digging into the scalp. I'm letting the clippers do the work. I'm letting the blade do the work. Once again, you want to listen to how much hair is coming off, because you don't want a whole lot of hair coming off, because you're just blending out that line where the 1 and the 1.5 met. And as you see, it's starting to smooth out really nicely at this point. So you're going to do that all the way around the head. Once again, I'm using my number 1 guard. If you're using the Speedo guides, it's your 00 guard with my with my Wahl Seniors all the way closed. Okay, now that I've done that process, what I did is I pulled out my Andis Masters with my number 2 guard halfway open, and I'm just smoothing out my 1 and my 1.5 line where those two met. So this would be my second line. I'm smoothing that second line out right now, and like I said before, in this process I'm really listening to how much hair comes off. I don't really want that much hair coming off because he wears a high and tight. I really don't want to begin to create more lines, so I'm letting the blade do all the work, making sure that the blade is laid flat on his head, and I'm just lightly touching where those lines are at, so I don't create a new line for myself. So I'm using my number 2 guard with my Andis Masters, and with my Andis Masters halfway open. Okay, and as you see, I just closed them. So I'm kind of going back and forth between open and closed, just listening to how much hair comes off. guys, in this next step our fade is almost complete. I'm taking my Wahl Seniors with the blade. First I'm going to start with the blade open and hear how much hair comes off, because now I'm taking out my first line. I'm working on taking out my first line, so I'm going to start with the blade all the way open and begin to smooth it out all the way around. Now if I notice that there's no hair coming off, then I'll close my blade and start to take that line out just a little bit, because I know that it would just smooth that line out. But right now I have my clippers pretty much open, and I'm going to work my way all the way around, just smoothing that line down at the bottom. So I'm working on the first line that I created at this point, just smoothing it down. As you can see, I'm pressing in just a little bit. I'm not as light-handed as I was when I had the guards on, because like I said, this is my first line that I put in, and now I'm working on blending that first line out. In this next step, I'm taking my Andis Masters with the blade closed, and I'm working on now really blending this line out. I start out closed, and if I see that it's not really blending out that well, I can tell you right now that I probably will move it to my second notch and really work on my first and my second notches with my Andis Masters. So I'll kind of go back and forth between the first and second notch. Right now I have them closed, and I'm lightly removing that bottom line, because I still have one more process to go. I really just want to make sure that this part is nice and smooth. So I have my Andis Masters all the way closed. Normally I would be using my Oster Fastfeeds all the way closed, but in this particular tutorial I wanted to use the Andis Masters so I could explain to you the difference between all the way closed and going to that second notch on the Andis Masters on the side to really remove this line. So if you have a pair of Oster Fastfeeds like I do, you can just open the blade up just a little bit and get the same effect. But with the Andis Masters, you can actually see the notches on the side, so it really helps out a lot. Alright guys, we're pretty much done the fade. If you remember, I didn't take the hair off the bottom when we first started the haircut. So now I'm gonna just take my Andis T-Outliners and begin to bald out the sides. We pretty much did our fade, and now I'm creating my bald fade line. I don't like doing the bald fade line early. It's just a habit that I have, because now you have to fade it all the way out. Where this, I have my fade in, and now the only thing I have to do is put my bald fade line in and get my bald fade line out. So I take my Andis T-Outliners, and now I'm taking all the hair off the sides and the back, and then we'll blend out this one line that we have left. Alright guys, so in this next step I'm going to take my Wahl 5-star Seniors with the fade blade on it. It's a flat blade, and I've got it adjusted so that it gets really close. So now I'm going to begin to fade this bald line out. Now that I've taken the T-Outliners, gone around and created my bald line, I'm now blending that line out. Now with these clippers you have to be really careful. You don't want to dig, and you don't want to press too hard, because this blade really can dig into the skin and cut a client. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that the blade is flat on the client's head and it's flush, and you're lightly taking that line out. If you do not have a pair of these with the fade blade on it, you could use your T-Outliners and just begin to fade that line out, just like I'm using with the with my Wahl 5 stars. If you have a pair of Andis Masters with the fade blade on it, you could use those, close those all the way up and begin to take this line out, and it'll work just the same as my Wahl Seniors. If you've heard any of my other videos, you know I love the Wahl Seniors, so that's why I use them. Alright guys, now our fade is complete, and now I'm taking an electric shaver, and I'm just making it super close on the sides, because he likes his sides to be super close. So I'm taking an electric shaver and I'm lightly going around the sides and the back of his head at the bottom, just making it really close, so that it's super bald, almost like a baby's bottom. I don't want to press too hard, because a lot of times if you press too hard, then your client can get ingrown hairs, and those things are a pain in the butt, and they can be pretty painful, and they're ugly to look at. So when you do the electric shaver, let the shaver do all of the work. You don't have to press really hard. The shaver will do the work. And this is the finishing touches to this haircut. Alright guys, our haircut is complete. I'm going to undrape him. I'm going to dust his neck off, and I'm going to clean up the loose hairs on the bottom of his neck, and it's all done. Simple, high and tight bald fade. Thanks for watching guys. I appreciate you guys.